The following story was sent to us by a victim of a romance scam. While this story might be a bit controversial, we hope that others will listen and learn a lesson from her mistakes. I know that I'll probably catch hell for my story, but I wanted to share with you all because anyone can fall into this bottomless pit when faced in this situation. What I did was wrong, and looking back, I deeply regret, but during the time, I felt like I was getting back what I deserved. I no longer feel this way, and sharing my story in some ways helps me, and I hope it saves someone from making the same mistakes as I did. This is my story. I am 43 years old, I live in Michigan, and I'm divorced. The whole nightmare started a few years ago. I found myself divorced, and a year after, I felt like I wanted to meet someone. I was ready, and felt it would be safer to meet a man online rather than in a bar, as I wasn't the bar type. My ex-husband was never affectionate. He was ex-military, and honestly was very cold in so many ways, but I don't blame him. He lived the military life from a young age. He was a great soldier and a great military man, but a terrible husband in terms of being loving, caring, and affectionate, and romantic. So needless to say, I had not had the affection I felt I deserved. I went online, and I signed up for Match.com, as well as Plenty of Fish. I basically said the same things about myself on both profiles, and same photo. I don't know what I expected, but I never thought this would happen to me. I got a message one night from a man on Plenty of Fish named Tony Giotti. He said he loved my profile picture and would love to get to know me. I took a look at his photo and he was very handsome. He said he was 50, and he hoped the age difference didn't bother me as it's just a number. I told him no, and my ex-husband was actually 10 years older than me. Tony said he was an engineer and owned an oil drilling company. He gave me the name of the company, and he said he was under contracts. He said he was a widow, and he had a 19-year-old daughter who went to school in the UK. He said his wife had died 5 years ago, and he raised his daughter on his own. He said he was from Los Angeles, but was born and raised in Turkey, and his dad was Turkish, and his mother was originally from Greece. He said he lived in Turkey until he was 20 years old, and then moved to the States for his schooling and then work. We messaged back and forth for a couple of days on Plenty of Fish before he asked for my phone number. I was a bit apprehensive at first, but decided to go ahead and give him my number. I had told him online I'd never been in a long-distance relationship, and I guess in a way it kind of felt safer, as he was far away and I didn't have to meet him in person right away. We could get to know each other on a more personal level. Tony called me one afternoon while I was on lunch break from my job. I was with a coworker of mine and was surprised he phoned me. I told him I couldn't talk for long as I was about to go back to work, but he just said he wanted to call and see if my voice was as sweet and beautiful as my photos. I admit, I was giddy like a schoolgirl. When he said that, he was so sweet. I was taken back by this, and I was taken back by his accent. I had never spoken to anyone who was from Turkey before. I told him his accent was interesting, and he said he was sorry for it and hoped that it didn't turn me off. I told him no, not at all. It was just different. He said he would call me later tonight. Sure enough, he did, and he asked me to download WhatsApp so we could voice chat at any time. We talked all the time. He told me his business information, what he did for work, and all the details. He even sent me a website to his company, which I later found out was made by the scammer. He said he also had a business partner, and they co-owned the company together. We talked daily for months. He went over to the UK to see his daughter for a week, and then he was to fly to Italy for business. He was in charge of a project over there. We started talking about meeting, but he was so busy with his work, and honestly, I kind of needed to make a plan and take some time off work if we were to meet. My job's in retail. I didn't earn enough vacation time to meet him yet. Tony talked about us having a cruise together when we first meet, and that he would pay for everything. Well, needless to say, it would take me a while to save up enough vacation days to take off, and he understood. He called me that night before his flight from the UK to Italy. He said he would be in Italy for a few weeks. He even texted me photos of famous places in Italy and pictures of his hotel room when he arrived. He was so caring. I gave him my address a while back, and on my day off work, I got a delivery of roses and chocolates to my home. I was absolutely shocked. Tony had sent them to me. The card read, "To my love, you are my heartbeat. Your man, Tony." In the years I was married, I never got roses. I never got flowers even when I was dating. I cried with joy and I felt very loved and cared for. This was all so crazy. I was madly in love with him already. The way he spoke, the things he promised, something I've never experienced. I also got a promise ring from Tony delivered from Amazon. He said his business partner had it sent. The name on the package was George Davis. When I questioned him about it, he said his business partner made a mistake when he ordered it and had put his name on the mailing address accidentally during the Amazon order. Well, either way, it was sweet of him. Tony really loved me, and it showed. As time went on, we talked more and more. We talked every night, and one night he called me when he was in Italy, upset. He told me that his business partner, yeah, the same one who sent and arranged the promise ring to be sent to my home, had stolen his project money and he was in trouble. He said the Italian government would arrest him as it was a government contract and he was responsible for the money even though his partner had stolen it and ran off. He was crying, upset. He then asked me for $10,000 to help pay, at least, the Italian workers. I was floored. He knew I don't have that kind of money. $10,000? I work in retail. Most months I hardly pay my bills. I told him I didn't have that kind of money at all. I explained there was no way I could get that kind of cash. He made me feel guilty. He had been so kind to me. Tony then asked me if I could get $5,000. He said he could try to get the other half of the money from an old friend. I told him I would try, but it would be very hard. He said he had 4 days to get the money or he would go to jail. I was in a panic. And I told him I'd try hard. Tony called me day and night asking me if I've got the money. He almost drove me insane. He would call and call, asking me what's the status of me getting the money. I told him I was gathering what I could to help. I had about $300 in my savings, which is a lot for me to have. I then did something stupid and took my car to a payday loan company. Basically, they take the title to your car as collateral, and for a high interest rate, they give you a loan. I was able to get $4,000 from that loan at a 29% interest rate, and the payments were very high. Tony said he would pay me back as soon as he got home in 2 weeks, so I figured everything would be okay. I only had to make one payment before Tony would come home and pay me back. I then pawned a few things and was able to get the total of $5,000. Tony told me that since he wasn't an Italian citizen, he couldn't pick up the money at Western Union, and he asked me to do a bank transfer from my bank to the manager of the workers, and he would pay them. So I did a wire transfer from my bank to a man in Italy. Tony said the worker's boss got the money and that I saved his life. He said he would be home in 2 weeks and not to worry, and he would pay me double and take me on a cruise when he returned. I was excited and I actually felt useful to Tony. Soon, though, we started talking less and less. I asked him if I did something wrong, and he said, no, work's been busy. Then 2 weeks came. I asked when he was coming home, and he didn't answer me. I started calling him day and night. I texted him. I yelled at him in texts. He was ignoring me. I told him to man up and pay me what he owed me before he dumped me. I probably sounded like a psycho. I told him I wanted my money or I would end my life. I screamed at him in text, left him screaming voice messages. I told him if I didn't hear from him by the end of the night, I would end it all. I would kill myself. Honestly, I wouldn't have, but I just wanted a reaction out of him. After hours of endless text and calling, Tony responded. He told me he was sorry, but he'd been lying to me. He told me he was ashamed of himself, and he thinks I wouldn't love him if he really knew the truth. I was confused. I yelled and telling him, be honest with me or I'll end my life. He finally confessed. He told me he was a 28-year-old guy named Michael from Nigeria. He also told me his tribe name, but I forgot what it is now. He said he needed the money for his daughter and to finish school. He said he was scared and he didn't want the guilt of me ending my life. I was shocked and I kept telling him I want my money back. He told me he was sorry, that he really loved me, and that he was ashamed, and he's so sorry that he caused me so much pain. He told me he talked to women online to get money from them. When I asked him where the ring and flowers came from, he told me he used credit cards that he had gotten from other women. I asked him how many women did he talk to online. He said many, but I was the only one that he truly fell in love with, and he was scared. I didn't believe him at first. He then told me his full name, his address, where he lived, photos of himself and of his daughter. He told me that the mother of his daughter, who was 5, left a couple years ago because she didn't want to be with him or have anything to do with the child. I felt sad for him. I was still angry though. I dialed him on WhatsApp for a video chat. He then picked up and we video chatted. He never video chatted with me as Tony, and now I know why. He was a Nigerian man. He told me he felt ugly. I told him he just should have been honest. I told him I need my money back. And he told me he had already spent it, but we could work together and I could work for him and help him out and I could get my money back. This is where I fell down a slippery slope into a deep dark hole. I was desperate to get my money back. He video chatted with me for a long time and explained how he scams people online because he needs money. Money for school, money for his daughter, and he had 5 brothers and sisters and parents that he supports. He kept telling me, but I was the only one he ever fell in love with. I kind of halfway believed him, but then I wondered, is he lying? He told me he would get my money back and that I could make more money helping him. It started off with me just wanting my money back, to pay off my loan, get my things out of pawn, and my $300 back in savings. He had me open a Cash App username and asked me for my bank information. I felt like I had nothing to lose. He already caused me problems. I told him if he tries to scam me again, I'll end my life. I told him I don't have money in my bank for you to steal either. He promised me he would help me if I helped him. He would be a business partner of sorts. He also tried to romance me as himself, and I told him that while he was a handsome man, I need my money back first. Within a few days, I started getting notifications that there was money in my Cash App, $50, $100 here and there. Then a deposit for $2,000 hit my bank account, all deposited by different people. Michael told me to split evenly what comes in, half for him, half for me. I would take half the money out and wire it directly to him via Western Union. I was told to let the cashier at the store know it was for family support. Within 2 weeks, I had about $3,000, mostly bank deposits made to my account, different names from all over the United States. And within a short amount of time, I was able to pay off my loan, get my car title back, my stuff out of pawn, and my savings back of $300. He squared me up, so to speak. I then told him we were done and we could part ways. Yes, I knew the money probably came from other victims, but I was selfish. I wanted my money back, and that's how I was going to get it. Michael then told me he wanted to take care of me, for me to be his girlfriend, and even talked about us meeting and being a couple. I don't know how or why he charmed me, but I told him maybe we could try. I was tired of working a terrible job, tired of living paycheck to paycheck, and tired of being alone. Michael was romantic as the fake person Tony, and the same words and same loving poems and songs he sent me as himself, the good morning and I love yous. I guess I was falling for Michael's face, but Tony's soul, if that makes sense to you. He asked me to come to Nigeria to meet him and his daughter, and I told him I would think about it. He wanted to take care of me, show me that he could be good enough. Pretty soon he asked my dreams, my desires. He asked me what I like, what I needed at home. I jokingly said to him, I need a new bed. Mine is over 20 years old and worn out. A few days later, a delivery truck came to my house and brought me one of those purple mattresses. You know, the real expensive ones you see on TV. They're well over worth $1,000 or more. I started getting sheet sets in the mail from Amazon, clothing, jewelry, kitchen, pots and pans from Walmart.com. I was even being spoiled by Michael, and I lived for it. I loved it. But I also knew he wasn't buying this stuff with his own money. Michael told me he wants me to take care of everything. He wants to give me everything. One morning, I got up to check my account to pay my bills, and there was over $20,000 pending in a transfer to my account. I was shocked. I called Michael, and he told me that it's for him to prove to me that he loves me. It was a deposit from a bank account in Sweden, some woman, and I don't know who she was. I sat there looking at the transfer that hit my bank, and I didn't know what to do. It's more money than I make in a year working. I know it was wrong, but as soon as it cleared, I took out some of the money and paid all my bills and traded my car in for a new car and used some of the cash for a down payment. I told Michael I bought and financed a new car. He told me he would help me make the payments, and again my Cash App was lighting up with $20 here, $50 there. Soon enough, I was sending Michael half the money nearly every few weeks. Western Union one day stopped me from sending money further. They said I had sent so much money in a short amount of time that it raised red flags for fraud. I let Michael know, and he had me sending money to other people across the globe. I did this for a few months before I was banned from Western Union. The bank deposits were getting to be too much. I was told by my bank my account was frozen due to suspicious fraud activity. I called Michael in a panic. I have to have an account as my paycheck from work goes into direct deposit into my bank and now everything's frozen. He told me he would fix it and he asked me to open another bank account with a different bank online so he too could access the account. He said he was planning for my trip to Nigeria and would pick me up at the airport. I planned to visit him in 6 months once I got my passport and could plan for this trip. He kept telling me he loved me over and over. I opened the online bank account and deposited $500 into the account to start it. Pretty soon money was flooding in. I had my work paychecks switched to this new account too. Michael promised me everything would work out and be okay and not to worry, and that he loved me. My old bank account said they were investigating fraud activity and I was freaking out. They asked me if I gave my account information to anyone and I lied and told them no. My new account had a large deposit, over $15,000 plus my paycheck from work. The day after payday, I went to log into my new bank account and was locked out of it. I was unable to access it. I tried calling Michael and he was gone from WhatsApp. I think he blocked me. I then tried calling him directly as I had his real Nigerian phone number. No answer. Nothing. I ended up having to go to the nearest bank and let them know that my account was having issues. They told me the password and login details had been changed. I told them what was going on and they flagged my account for fraud. There were online checks deposited into my account, which I knew nothing about, and those checks were fraudulent. My nightmare went on as both banks investigated all of my deposits and the online bounced checks. Long story short, Michael used me and my account. He vanished on me and I was unable to find him online. I gave his information to the bank and the police were contacted. They said there was nothing they could do about him, but I was to be held liable for all the bounced check fees and fraudulent check fees that Michael had taken a large deposit out of my account before one of the online deposits was reported for fraud, and the person who wired the money to my account filed a fraud report. It was a woman who lived in Florida who was the victim of an online romance scam. The bank investigation said I was at fault for allowing a scammer to use my accounts. I also lost my new car as I couldn't make the payments and lost my paycheck Michael took when he cleaned out my bank account. I lost everything. I was lucky not to get charged with fraud. The bank could have done worse to me, but they let me off with just having to pay the fees. My credit is now ruined. I'm making payments to the bank, and I cannot get a bank account for 5 years. Michael ruined me, and he lied about his love. He used me. It's a hard lesson learned for my own greed. He never loved me, and I should have known the truth. And we'd like to thank this lady for sharing her story. I know it's a bit of a controversial story and not a typical romance scam story, but this just goes to prove that scammers, even when they confess, are still trying to use you for their own purposes. Well, thanks for sharing your story. If you'd like to share your story, you can find us on Facebook under Scamming Scammers Action. Just inbox us your story, give us permission to narrate your story, and we will put it in a future video. And if you need help, we are on Facebook under Scamming Scammers Action. Thanks a bunch. We'll see you next time. Bye.